Hi, I am Bushan from Economy by Bushan Jalali, a subset of Nancy Foundation. Today, once again, I am come with the topic regarding power sector of India. So, we will be discussing the status of power sector in India vis-a-vis policy of the government plus latest status with the plans for future. So viewers, please do not forget to view your ideas about the lecture, like it, share it and subscribe it. In case of any doubts, you can chat with me, send text or email. I will be pleased to respond to those queries. So here we go. And when we talk about the power sector, we straightway come to what are the resources, what are the sources for power in our country. We classify them in two ways. One is called fossil fuel, or we call non-fossil fuel. Energy derived out of fossil fuel or non-fossil fuel. Or we sometimes say non-renewable source of energy or a renewable source of energy. Number one. Number two, we often see in the press, also in the media, in the books also we read two things. One is what is the installed capacity in our country. That means what is the installed capacity of power generating. That means the industries, the units which are generating power, what is their maximum capacity. That is called installed capacity, how much units they can generate. Second is actual power generation. Despite a unit has a capacity of say 100 megawatts generation of power, it has the capacity, but it generates only 50 megawatts, 60 megawatts, that is generation. And the third point you must be conscious of, what is the plant load factor. That means an industry or a unit or a plant, if it has the capacity to generate say 1000 megawatts or x megawatts, on average what amount of power it generates, that is called plant load factor. That means a plant which is capable of generating 100 megawatts, suppose it is generating only 60 megawatts, maybe because of non-availability of working capital, non-availability of the inputs, or because of the non-availability of the demand. Anything can be the reason. But overall, while going through to know about the power sector, we must know all these factors, that what is the capacity of our country, what is the plant load factor. That means if the capacity of our country is 100 megawatts, plant load factor is only 60%, that means we can produce 100 but we are producing only 60. So as an analyst, it is my duty to know what are the reasons. So in our country we have a fossil fuel capacity, total fossil fuel capacity is 55%. Whatever is the capacity, installed capacity in our country, 55% comes from fossil fuel. Now the point is, what is fossil fuel? Fossil fuel comprises of coal, lignite, gas, diesel, whatever you get, the sources, whatever you get from the mother earth, under the ground, that is called fossil fuel, which is created by decaying or decomposing of organic matters hundreds and thousands of years time. That is called fossil fuel. So our total generation of power is from fossil fuel is 55% of the total capacity. This is also called non-renewable. Second is renewable energy. As on date, India has 43% out of the total capacity. 43% comprises from renewable energy. What does that mean? That means hydro, wind, solar power, other renewable resources. So we have 43%. Among these, you must know, as a student, you must know that the highest source of renewable energy comes from solar, because these questions are asked in UPSC sometimes. Where from do we get the maximum? So as on date, it keeps on changing. As on date, the highest source from renewable source of energy, it is solar, and from fossil fuel, from non-renewable source of energy, it is coal. Fine. Now there is one thing to note. We also produce energy from nuclear resources. We have nuclear power plants. So nuclear power plants are included in non-renewable source of energy, because the inputs, the uranium they use actually are extracted from the under the ground. So that is why they are called non-renewable source of energy. But the energy itself does not emit greenhouse gases. So the energy, if only energy is asked, that is considered in the non-fossil fuel energy, but source is fossil fuel. Now this is all about capacity, installed capacity. Now coming to power generation. The data with me is of latest 22, 23, 24. As per this data published in the Ministry of Power, total fossil fuel generation, previously it was 80% of the country's power generation, it has now come down to 76.2%. That means 76% of the power generation in our country, it comes from the fossil fuel. Among the fossil fuel, it is 72% comes from coal. So we have to keep this in mind, because we are often talking about the environment, our greenhouse gases, our the Paris Agreement, or resolution, Glasgow Agreement. So we have, every country has certain compulsions. We have to keep in mind that still India is producing 72% of the power generation from coal sector. Now again comes to mind renewable source. Renewable source generation is 13% of the total production in our country. So 76 plus 13, it comes to 89. We have to account for full 100%. So 89% among the renewable source of energy, solar it gives 6.7%, wind gives 4.7%, rest biofuel, biopower, others 1.6%. Hydroelectricity we get, that is also called renewable, we got 7.8% of the total generation. Among the hydroelectric projects, normally projects below the generation capacity of 25 megawatts are considered to be renewable. Beyond, we can say small projects are considered to be totally renewable and environmental friendly, this emitting of greenhouse gases. But projects with higher this generation capacity more than 25 are considered, they are non-renewable. Why? Now the question is why? Electricity is produced from the water, it falls on the turbine moves and generates the electricity. Then how come? The criteria for deciding a unit whether it is a renewable or non-renewable has certain definitions, conditions. One of the conditions is that the big hydroelectric projects require creation of a big dams where the water is made to stagnate in the dam, with the result the under the water species they die, who in turn do not favor environment maintenance. So that is why projects having dams where the run of the water is slowed down to a large extent, they are declared as non-friendly with the environment. Hence, because the species they are in underwater bodies, they will die, and that is why they are not considered as a non-emitter of greenhouse gases. So you must keep this in point. Secondly, India also import electricity from Bhutan, because we know Bhutan produces electricity from all the hydroelectricity. Whatever electricity we import, it is very little, it is 0.2% of the total electricity we have. We import, that is all classified as a renewable source of energy, because they don't have any thermal power, they have all hydel powers. So this is the mix of the power generation capacity as well as power generation. India has made a tremendous rapid strides in the power sector. We are ranked as the third largest producer of electricity, and almost every citizen has the access to grid electricity. What is grid electricity? We call grid and off grid. These are two words we often use. One is called grid electricity, second is called off grid electricity. Grid electricity is that electricity where the power generating companies they transfer their power to one grid, where one network of systems where the power is stored. Then from grid it is again transferred to different utilities, different uses. Normally, in the case of renewable source of energy, especially in solar energy, we often say on rooftop solar panels we have two types of systems prevailing in India. One connection we can connect it to the grid. That means when my solar panel generates electricity, if I am not using it, it automatically gets connected to the grid, and they store it with them and they use it. Whenever I require more than what my solar panel produces, then my balance with them, they provide me the same, or sometimes they provide me the money out of it. So that is called grid power. So in India, almost everyone is connected with the grid power. In the case of solar, in the case of renewable energy, not 100%, but to a large extent, whoever installs solar panel, they try to get it installed connected with the grid. Our Prime Minister recently said, "Sabki bijli muft," and simultaneously he said, "How muft?" he said that you will be connected with the grid. Whatever will be your consumption, you will, if in consumption in excess of your whatever will be your consumption less of your generation, that will be paid back to you. So in a way, instead of paying rent to the government, electricity dues to the government, you will be earning from the government. Now we talk about the system of power generation. We have three things in power sector. One is power generating companies who produce power. It may be hydel, it may be thermal power, it may be solar, it may be wind electricity, any renewable or nuclear. They are called power generating companies. Second is we have transmission companies. Suppose I have a power development unit in say in Punjab. So I want to sell my power. From Punjab they want to sell it to say J&K, Himachal, UP or anybody. There are different separate companies for it who ensure your cabling of your source project to the grid. दिल्ली में हमारा ग्रिड है इंडिया का, और स्मॉल रीजनल ग्रिड्स है. So your power goes to the grid, then the grid, in grid there is a power trading corporation. Through that you sell it to anyone. So for transferring your power from one state to other state, we have transmission companies. So we have power generating companies, we have power transmission companies, and the third is power distribution companies, whom generally we call discoms. These are the three main players in the supply chain system of the energy. But we have the issues. As in my earlier topic, energy poverty, we have realized that per capita consumption of energy in India is almost 1/3 of the global average. What is the reason? So we have issues. For example, power generation issues. What is the reason? 76.2% of the power generated in India comes from fossil fuel, from coal, from natural gas, from diesel. So what is the problem? We are mostly dependent on state-run Coal India company, where extraction of coal mining is not so efficient, is not adequate, is not timely available. With the result, our thermal power plants, they suffer, and they are compelled to import coal from outside, which is costly, for which we have to pay the foreign exchange. So these are the issues. Although for the last just 2-3 years, now they have delicensed and de-reserved this coal sector. Now, in addition to Coal India Limited, now they are allowing private sector, they are allowing e-auction. Thereby we have been able to mine more and more coal, reduce dependence on imports, and generate more power. So this was one reason. Second reason is because transmission and distribution losses. Aggregate technical and commercial losses. World over, there is an average of transmission and commercial losses, it is only 8%. While as in India, one time it was 40%. then it was 22%. That means whatever electricity the generating companies will produce, would generate, 22 to 40% would go waste. It is a huge amount. So this is one more reason why our per capita power consumption is less. Why our energy consumption per capita is 1/3 of global. Why it is almost 1/10, 1/15 of Canada. So these are the reasons. Now what are its effects? India has the ambition, India has the vision, India has the target to provide 24/7 power to its citizens. India has the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat. How? By Make in India, or by making India the manufacturing hub for the globe, and human development. It is World Bank report that power per capita energy consumption is directly related with the human development. Our human resources will get developed if they have more availability of power, if they use more electricity. How? I will give a simple layman's language. If you use electricity in your home for ACs, if you use electricity in your home for heating the rooms in winter, if you use for cooking, if you use for driving the vehicle electricity, your life will be comfortable. Children will have more facilities to study. You won't have health problems. You will be able to generate more income. You will save your expenses on the diseases, on the health, which will in turn make your living standards high. So the per capita consumption of energy is the yardstick to measure the living standards of the citizens of the country. So how they can now develop it, how they can, India can achieve these dreams? It is by providing more and more electricity, and out of this our plant load factor is only 69%. That means हमारे पास capacity है, but we are unable to produce more. One thing is we are unable to produce more. Second thing is our 30%, 20% is lost in transmission and commercial losses. So we have to ensure certain reforms, right? अब इसमें first we want to see, the studies have revealed that the main culprit in our energy poverty is power distribution companies, or we can say power distribution system. Why? Here are the points. One is, our power distribution companies are running in loss. 80% of their expenses are incurred for purchase of power, because they have to purchase from power generating companies, but they are not able to receive amount equal to what they have paid plus what are their expenses. With the result, they are able to sell power at a relatively costlier price. This is one reason. The second is lack of independence and autonomy. Power in India is provided free of cost to agriculture sector and very subsidized rates to households. So the distribution companies are dependent on the state governments for receiving their subsidy amount, which they don't pay in time, or sometimes they don't pay it, resulting in loss in the distribution company. And third is fixation of tariff. Because of the political intervention, the tariffs are not increased. Tariffs means the rates charges for the electricity. They are not increased for years and years long. Instead, what they do, they charge the difference to the industries and commerce. So it becomes cheap for the domestic purposes and it becomes costly for the industrial and commercial activities. The problem got worsened with the government's open access policy. What does it mean? Open access policy means those bulk purchasers of electricity, they have the choice in certain places, not throughout country as yet. They can buy power from wherever they want, especially those consumers whose requirement is greater than 1 megawatt. They need not purchase power wherever government wants. They can directly purchase the power in the open market. They can directly purchase the power from some other distribution companies who are providing power at a relatively cheaper prices than the distribution companies. Why? Because distribution companies have done one mistake in the past. They are in agreement, they have already entered into agreement with thermal power producers way back for a longer period at a higher price, which now they are committed to purchase at those higher prices because they couldn't visualize at that time the future demand of the electricity. So there was a judgmental error. With the result, there are certain distribution companies who are compelled to purchase power at costly prices, and at the same time those big consumers, they instead of purchasing power from the main distribution company, they go and purchase under open access scheme where the power is available at cheaper price. With the result, our distribution companies are losing the clients. When they are losing the customers, that means they are losing the revenue. With the result, they are running in loss. Now comes to transmission and commercial losses. Transmission losses means when they are connecting the wires from long wires from one station to another station at the joints or at some for inferior quality of wires, the electricity gets wasted. That is called transmission loss. Second is commercial losses. Commercial losses due to power theft, which is normal, although to some extent arrested now. Absence of metering. Inefficiencies in bill collection. Inefficiencies in bill collection. Previously it was a big problem. Now it has improved a lot. These are the reasons why our distribution companies, why our power sector is not progressing well. Global average of transmission and commercial losses is lower than 8%. China it is 6%. China it is 8%. USA it is 6%. In India it was 22%. But thanks to the present government, for the last about 5-6 years, especially last 5 years, because I am watching this regularly, it has come down. As on date, it is around 15 or 16%. Now the question is how? What did the government do? The government did they introduced a scheme that is called revamped power distribution sector scheme. It subsumed all the previous schemes of funding discoms, tariffing, all those things. It's subsumed into this, that is called revamped power distribution scheme. What are the players in this? In the players are Rural Electrification Corporation, whose one of the units is Power Finance Corporation. They made the reforms conditional, purely linked to result oriented परफॉर्मेंस. उसमें क्या क्या आता है? मैंडेटरी एनर्जी ऑडिटिंग एंड अकाउंटिंग ऑफ ऑल डिस्कॉम्स, लेट पेमेंट ऑफ सरचार्ज, infrastructure development, availability of power to consumers, quality of power to consumers. These all factors, they made their support on the performance of these factors. Late payment of charges. So this is how they made the discoms to improve their performance. They created the regulatory authority, Central Electricity Regulatory Commission, State Electricity Regulatory Commission, appellate tribunal, delicensing of thermal power stations, reduction of the target, reduction of average cost of services and average revenue recovered. They made a target that by 24-25 this gap should be zero, and for the last 5 years this is significantly improving. That means now there is more revenue collection. AT&C losses have come down to around 12 to 15%. Around 16%, which was once 22%. Now we have a good number of discoms which are profit making, although there are still a lot which are still loss making, but they have a time of another 1 or 2 years. By that time they have to turn around. Consumer metering and system metering except agriculture. Feeder segregation means the line, the supply which goes to agriculture sector, they have a separate feeder. The system which feeds household, they have a separate feeder, so that they have proper monitoring system at back end. Modernization of distribution systems in urban areas. As on date, we have 70 discoms in the country, out of which 58 are public and 12 are private. Profit making 27 and loss making 39. This is a big improvement. Last but not the least, they made every discom to have a renewable purchase obligation, RPO, just to boost the renewable generation of power. They made it mandatory for all discoms to purchase. Initially it was 15%, 25%. Now it is linked to the percentage of renewable power generated in the country. So as on date, every RPO, every discom has to purchase 29.9% of the power which will be of renewable energy, yani solar, wind, whatever it is, from the grid. So doing two things. One is just boosting the generation of this renewable energy, at the same time encouraging people to use renewable energy. because India is aiming to achieve 50% of its installed solar power capacity by renewables by 2030. This is our commitment. Now, so far as the performance is concerned, we have been able to reduce our AT&C losses to 15.4% after last year. Bill efficiency improved to 87%. अब बिलिंग सिस्टम एस्टैब्लिश हो गया, बिल शिल सबके पास जाता है. And collection efficiency, previously what it happened, people were not paying the bills. Now it has gone up to 97.3%. It's called collecting efficiencies. Delays in payment, it has reduced to 126 days and receivables 190 days. यानी कि जो डिस्कॉम कंपनी को आगे देना होता है उसका डिले 126 हो, पहले होता है 6 महीने, 8 महीने, साल. नाउ इट हैज़ कम. रिसीवेबल जो लोगों से लेना होता है, इट हैज़ कम डाउन टू 119 डेज. इससे पुराना बिल नहीं खड़ा होता है, लाइन काटते हैं. दिस इज़ ऑल आई हैड टू शेयर यू विद रिगार्डिंग power generation capacity, power sector. Now, last but not the least, I want to add that we have gas-based economy. Now, the government is focusing on to have gas-based economy. What is gas-based economy? Gas-based economy is that where the primary, one of the important sector for energy, commercial energy is gas-based. As on date, we have only around 16%. Oh, sorry, 6%, 6.14%. Now, government has planned to increase this ratio of primary energy basket to 15% by 2030. So, this is to make India a gas-based economy. Why? Because gas is lesser greenhouse gases emitter. Secondly, it can be transported easily through pipes. Third is we are committed to have net zero emission by 2070, to reduce emissions intensity by 45% and reduce carbon emissions by 1 billion metric tons by 2030, because natural gas is considered to be less greenhouse gas. So it is a good step for transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy. This is all I had to share you about this power sector. So in short, in power sector mein, what we have to see that the main problem lies with the DISCOM's distribution system. Although Government of India for the last couple of years has made good strides in the reduction of losses and efficiency of the power distribution companies, and at the same time for generation of power, government has been able to de-license, de-reserve coal sector, whereby coal mining has improved a lot, thereby decreasing the import of coal. Secondly, we have certain thermal power plants where the machinery is very obsolete, thereby reducing the efficiency. Now, government is pushing those power generating companies to have modernized equipments and machineries so that we have efficient system of coal producing, thereby in totality to ensure that we meet the growing demand of 9% of energy demand is increasing, so we are able to meet it and make it for the even for exports, especially of the Asian countries, SAARC countries. That's all for the power sector today. Thank you.